Hey guys, what's up? This is the third episode of Sound Stories, and I've got Nick in the house. How you doing,
Hey,
Nick?
I'm doing good.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about sound installation and just installation companies in general. I know I talked about my church installation before, but we're going to be touching on the subject a little more generally today and giving a few more examples because we have experienced many. So give some personal experience and tell the people on my channel who you are, Nick.
So I'm Nick. I've done sound. I've been in a few of his videos. I work DJing and I do live sound for theater mostly, but I do a few band related things like X Stock, which I never filmed. But anyways, let's get right into the installation stuff. So in the IT industry, you could do stuff really simply. You can just have a wire connected from a computer to a projector. But for some reason, in some cases, you have the want to add expensive switching equipment to make a very simple connection into a big, complicated thing where instead of just having a single cable go into a projector, what happens is you have a cable, a source, say, a Chrome box, that goes into a switching unit that costs $1,000, which has to interface with a $1,000 controller. That also needs to be programmed. So, how does this have something to do with installation companies? Well, since these things have to be programmed, it is pretty much foreign language to me how these things are programmed. So you have a big installation company that can essentially charge $9,000 to program a thing and support it, which means just occasionally coming out and changing a few things. And the thing is it's not very good for IT people because it's impossible to service. Like, the most I can do is swap a cable out. Like, I can't change what the switching box does because it's specifically programmed. And in sound, it's the same way. They like to overcomplicate things and put this permanent install. They think what they think it is, they think they're dumbing it down for people. But honestly, half the time, just switching sources on a projector is easier than just the box on the table.
They're really just making it more complicated, making it harder for everybody to use, so you have to hire them again to fix their crappy job. And what Nick is specifically referring to in this case is mostly school stuff. And they use a company called Crestron. Crestron isn't the name of the installation company, but it is a company that makes switching equipment. And there's absolutely no reason that a teacher needs $3,000 worth of switching equipment and a rack under their freaking computer. There's no reason they need that. There's no reason to buy them a $15,000 desk when we could probably do the same thing for half the price in-house.
Which is
really
why
sad.
In our rooms, we started renovating classrooms. We call them 21st century classrooms. It's a standing desk that motorizes up and down, a Blu-ray player, and a Chrome box, and instead of the need for $2,000, $3,000 switching equipment, it's just two HDMIs that plug right to the projector. And if they want to plug their laptop in, the teacher can simply just unplug the cord from the back of the Blu-ray player and plug it into their laptop. It's that much simpler, and that's $3,000 that our department doesn't need to spend. And on top of that $3,000, it's all installed in-house, so support's easier, and we don't have to have this foreign language kind of spoken to us. And then,
Yep, if you install it yourself, you'll know how to fix it. Let somebody else install it, and you're screwed. Like, you don't know what's going on there.
which leads us to the main point of this video, which is our story about designing a recording setup for a theater.
A couple months ago, we got an email from a installation company that they were going to be doing some work, and we would be paying out. Obviously, the school would be paying out, and essentially some of the administrators wanted us to take a look at it, figure out if they were getting our money's worth. And they were not getting their money's worth. We're looking at about $44,000 And what were some highlights of their selections in terms of equipment? And by the way, we're talking about a video studio equipment.
And I'll have Will just maybe have it scroll down the document in this video.
Yeah.
Some of the things that were on there were this Panasonic discontinued camera, which was 1080p for $44,000 quote. This tally light system, which is essentially $2,000 for a light on the camera that you can switch to say this is the camera you look at, which for a school district it's kind of over the top. And AV switching, of course, was in there. No, not the type of AV switching I was talking about. Type of AV switching that a big film studio, TV studio would be using, but for our case, it's easier to do everything in OBS, control it with the Stream Deck, which was in the system we designed, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the amount of cabling that they threw in there that was just why. And the DJ style light bars to backlight the green screen.
That one was absurd. $7,000 for these, we're talking like the kind of lights where the individual colors are separate. And this is to light a green screen,
which we would typically have on white a lot of times. So you might, because that's another case of you might experience color bleeding. Like for effect lights, yeah, it looks stupid. But if you're recording, you want the true white color.
Yeah, right. That's a no-brainer. And those cameras, they wanted $8,000 for these two cameras, these two discontinued Panasonic cameras. Just a little perspective. This is being shot on a Panasonic G7, the body of which I purchased for under $300. This camera shoots 4K at 100 megabits per second. These $8,000, $4,000 a piece cameras could not do that. That's absurd, especially considering that all of the switching hardware, all of the not computers, but all of the TVs that they selected, everything else was 4K. So why are we buying 1080p cameras?
Because it's their backstock. That's what it is. They're trying to get rid of it. So when they decide to start saying, hey, we are going to install 4K hardware now, they have all their back catalog, their back stock out of their office so they can finally get with the times.
Now, in order to install this, there's a couple things you would have to do, right? You'd have to lay some conduit, maybe. Maybe plug in a few cameras. Maybe put cameras on tripods. Put the monitors, or the TVs on their little rolling stands.
Now, how much do you think that should cost?
How much do you think that would cost, right? I don't know. Maybe like $12,000.
Whoa! Wait, what?
$12,000, right? Absolutely absurd.
I'm in the wrong industry. If they're making $12,000 to plug in a few cameras and maybe mount a box to the wall.
Absolutely ridiculous. So what we did is we basically talked to the administration. We said, give us a few days, and we're going to come up with a list that you might like a little better. So we did. And we made a list, a fantastic list. And basically this is what we did. First, we took those cameras, and literally we just looked up to see what the newest version that wasn't discontinued was. Happens to shoot 4K 60, happens to be $1,000 cheaper per. Fantastic. We already saved like $2,000 or $3,000 and got better cameras, right? We did the same thing. Nick talked to B&H reps to find better lights. We found the perfect lights for the green screen. We did everything. Some of the stuff is the same. Like we picked the same TVs, for
mounts.
example. Instead of hardware switching, we built a computer, right? We designed a computer that we could build, and it would be all in-house, in-computer switching with a capture card and everything.
Which, mind you, for the same price that they were speccing out that AV switcher, we could build a computer. And
absolutely.
The best thing is now we have a place to edit the footage on, because before that, maybe the most you could do is like a Mac with, I don't even think, dedicated graphics, which would take a while to render, especially considering if we were going the 4K route, that would be extremely
absolutely
painful.
And we've also been looking to get a more portable camera for a while, so we figured, hey, well, while we're at it, let's put our portable camera request list on there too, which is a GH5, a personal favorite of mine, very similar to my own camera, a gimbal, a bunch of lenses and other crap that we figured we might need, and we did all of this And the final price we came up with for us to do this was
$22,000.
literally half. Literally half.
And like, yeah, you can say, okay, you're getting the professional install, you're getting the ability to call them. They drive up from Albany, which is like a 40-minute drive. But the thing is that you're going to be able to get immediate support because me, Will, and the IT team are going to be the ones who are installing. Hell, we can even get a few people who are, trying to learn tech stuff who are underclassmen to install this stuff too. So they all know how it is, and they can pass the knowledge base on to the future generations because, if you're involved in the install, you really do know how it was put together. Now, I have another experience with the same company. Again, this company's... It's the same one that did the classroom installs. So our middle school, which you've seen me do events at, I don't know if I highlighted their new sound system in the video. The most I saw up to this point was they had these K-array column array speakers, which I have opinions on column arrays. I don't like them. I think they could have picked up much better things. They also had the passive QSC subs that were mounted way up in the ceiling, which for some reason they did. I have no idea.
Have you heard them yet? How do they sound?
No, I don't, but I will definitely take a listen to them.
There's no mid-range drivers of any kind. It's just subwoofers and then a bunch of tweeters.
I mean, they claim it sounds good, but of course they do.
Oh, and it's like, there's, 95% of the room is covered. Well, A, what about the other 5%? And B, like, just because it's covered doesn't mean it sounds good. Like, you could, what's the app where you can have the same thing playing on two phones? You know what I'm talking about, where it syncs up?
No idea.
You could do that and just have a bunch of phones. Sure, you're going to get great coverage. That doesn't mean it sounds good.
And so since our auditorium is getting demolished because the ceiling is falling down, that's another story.
Asbestos.
Yep. They're renovating it anyway, so they said, let's kickstart this. So the past week we've been scrambling to try to find a venue for our show. So the spring musical was settled to be at the middle school, which is the place that these people renovated. So included in the $9,000, we decided to take advantage of that and have the guy, his name's John, come out to meet with us. Really nice guy, and I have nothing personal against him. I just think his company is kind of a ripoff. But, so he walked me through it, and all of a sudden, the first thing he pointed out was, so I think a Soundcraft SI Performer, I didn't actually get to see it, but they had this wall box, which I'll put a picture on because I'm going to be at the middle school tonight. And it contained a Ethercon for the Snake, which I thought it was just going to be a D-Snake and then a bunch of things plugged into the D-Snake backstage with some open ports. Then I heard how everything was connected to the outputs and the mics they bought. It's through Dante.
All of it. All of it.
Except the stage box, which has nothing plugged into it, so you can plug a few things into it, like some old mic racks. So that means it's not going to be easy, and my feelings started to get worse because then I'm like, oh god, there's going to be no way around using the Soundcraft mixer because I want to use the X32.
Now, technically there is a solution, but it would cost a lot of money.
Buying a Dante card?
You can put a Dante card in a X32, which isn't that expensive. It's like $400.
But still, if there's an easy way around it. And so I get back. They unlock the rack, which I had not looked at up until this point. They have the Shure, I think, ULXE. They're these mic racks that have 4 mics in a single rack space, which is cool. But it's Dante, so I can't use them. And then I see this Ethernet cable running to the stage box. I'm like, oh, maybe I can utilize the wiring in the wall to carry signal from my Behringer board to a set of S16s backstage. Nope. It runs through a switch, and it's proprietary. So I'm going to have to run probably 150 foot of Ethernet cable to make it work. And he keeps going on. I'm like, oh god, there's no way to plug in to the output. Because I'm like, starting to think, I'm like, okay, they should probably have an aux input for a phone. So then I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. I just want to plug this in. And he's like, he's flipping through his Crestron panel. Yes, there's Crestron in it because it's the same company that did everything else. There has to be Crestron in it. It's their thing. And then you see this like volume adjustment because you can program a GUI, which they did a terrible job with. And I see an option for aux. So I'm like, what is this? He's like, I think it's this on this panel. So I go down, look at the panel, and lo and behold, there is a left and right XLR input. This took him probably a good 20 minutes to get to. If I would have seen that first, it would have been like, okay, perfect, that's all I need. But no. I had to walk through the entire what proprietary setup we did and how it's going to make my life harder. So, in the end, they sectioned off basically any chance of me using their mics because they're nicer. They're in the 400 range. Our mic rack is in the 600s, which is coming illegal very soon. So we're going to try to squeeze our last bits out of that.
You know what I would do if I were you? I'd say all of those microphones from the black box, those are all in the same rack as the S16. You're going to have to take that anyways. May as well just take the whole rack.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
That's what you're going to do. That's a good decision.
Do.
I think that's a great idea.
You know what I'm thinking just now?
What are you thinking?
I wonder if those Shure mics that they bought are on the same frequency range as those.
Oh,
so I can take the two handhelds and just sync two of them, so I have 10 new body packs.
That's a good idea.
Because, although they're ULXD, not QLXD.
Is there any way... these are the same mic racks, right?
They're
just
different ones.
They're different. But they have XLR outputs, right?
I'm not tearing apart the rack.
Do you have access to the back of it?
No.
They're not... Oh, man, I would... it would be so tempting. Oh, that's another thing we did. So they did an installation in this theater, right? And we didn't like what they did. They installed a pair of S16s for the X32 and then a bunch of microphones. But they installed the S16s in a separate rack from all the mics, and then they had a connection. So what we did is we took everything out of the racks, undid all of their work, and just redid it exactly the way we wanted it. We redid all of their wiring. There were a couple of Ethernet jacks that weren't even hooked up to anything. So yeah, we hooked them up.
In these mics, they are compatible with wireless Workbench. So what did I do? I actually took use to that, put a rack-mounted switch in there, ran Ethernet to all the mics, and now that's a feature of these $1,000 microphones that we can now use.
Yep, and we cleaned the whole place up. Everything looks way better now. There's a computer in there now. Everything's really clean and crisp. Except we just, there's so much garbage in that room because they use it as the kind of dumping zone for any junk that they have. But, excuse me, it's a very well equipped room that is now organized to our liking, and we've done a fairly good job of documenting our work as well.
So do you have any other personal experiences with install companies?
I'm trying to think if I talked about the church, which was a disaster. I don't know if I mentioned the church I'm currently at. Slightly different installation disaster. It's not even a disaster, but it's a room with about a maximum occupancy of 300 people, and they installed a 4-speaker line array on both sides, LR, so 8 total speakers, QSC, and 2 subwoofers on each side, for a room with a maximum occupancy of 300 people.
Wow.
That's the opposite of what you'd typically expect an install company to do. They went so overkill but it was good stuff, right? But the other thing, they ended up with a Soundcraft, or not a Soundcraft, a PreSonus Studio Live 24, the original one. So you want to control it with your iPad? Nope. You want to do anything that would require motorized faders? Can't do that. It doesn't have motorized faders because screw you, right? Thank you, PreSonus, for finally making your 3 series, which has motorized faders and a touchscreen. But for those of whom who don't have that, we are all in the dark. Mm-hmm. Guess what? We were talking earlier about how the ceiling in our auditorium is falling down. What do you think they're going to do about that? I know. In terms of audio, and I'm not talking about the entire redesign of the auditorium, I'm talking about just audio. They want to spend approximately $90,000, and they want to install, I don't even know what this is exactly, but basically they want to do something that's kind of like a home theater setup, where it uses microphones and sound reproduction, kind of like noise-canceling headphones, basically to change the sound of the room even when something isn't run through the system. And what this sounds like to me is an amazing opportunity for super confusion. Nobody's going to know how this works. It isn't ever going to work. It's going to be so bad. They're flying somebody out from Japan to install this thing. So when it breaks, we have to wait for somebody to get on a flight from Japan to fix the darn thing, which will ultimately cost us more money. It's absolutely ridiculous and overkill. All we need is a line array. Literally, give me a line array, some new microphones, and a board. We're good. Good to go. Line array, some nicer subwoofers. That's all we need. And a new ceiling would be nice. Yeah. That doesn't have asbestos in it.
And that's the thing, is with lighting, you can save for one thing. Yeah, get some RGB source 4s, ETC lighting, but like that's warranted. But with sound, installation companies just go far and beyond to spend as much possible money on some unnecessary crap. And that is installation companies.
Don't hire an installation company.
Talk to your team. See if they know how to do it and can install it on-prem, and then you'll have a knowledge base that you can get to without having to fly somewhere.
Let me talk to you about the kind of knowledge that these people on these installation companies have. Let me tell you about their knowledge. You could install the same crap they install by watching YouTube. Literally, let me give you a little bit of a recommendation. I had a buddy who had a problem with water getting into his basement. So he wanted to install a system to prevent that, right? Not just a sump pump, but something a little more complicated, like around the house. But he couldn't figure out how to do it. So he called up a couple companies, and they said they would charge $12,000 to do it. And he said this: could you please leave those plans for me to look at? Looked at the plans, did it for $800 all by himself, right? So this is the same thing. We didn't know exactly what we would think. I mean, we're not geniuses, right? We don't know exactly what a TV studio needs. We saw the list, we looked at their list, and we're like, okay, we need all of this stuff, right? So we found the stuff, and we bought it for cheaper, right?
And also, if you guys are lost any in terms of speccing out audio stuff, there's one place to go, and that's B&H's Lives Chat. They are the most knowledgeable people in terms of this stuff. I've used them for this stuff. They helped me pick out a camera. They helped me pick out the lighting, which I had no idea where to go for the lighting.
B&H representatives will literally get, like, when you hit that live chat thing and you send them your initial message, they're on your case in 30 seconds, and they, like, if you say, I'm looking for this, they'll send you like 10 different links and be like, well, if you need to do this, this is the link. If you want this, and they will just sit on there for 30, 40 minutes, whatever you need them to do. They're so good. And obviously, if you live in New York City, you can just walk into the store and, like, they have pretty much everything on their website in stock all the time. So,
I mean, and unlike these installation companies, they're not looking at, okay, these people are stupid and they're going to spend this kind of money on this stuff. They want to work within your price range. And apparently, from what I heard, this installation company was originally going to charge us $130,000 for this TV studio, which I don't know what they were getting. $40,000, that's already a lot. Like, what could you possibly need? Like 8K TVs?
It better have been red cameras. I bet it was like little Sony camcorder, some junk. But this episode appears to be around 25 minutes long, or at least that's how much footage I have. I could probably condense that down a little bit. But I think that'll be all for today. If you guys want to see more of these things, please leave a comment in the... what do they call that? The comment section. Yeah. I was going to say the description. I am the only person who has the power to leave a comment in the description, which I probably won't do.
Unless you hack his YouTube channel.
Don't hack my YouTube channel. I won't appreciate that. I'll block you. I'm going to call the police. So, please leave a comment, like this video, and subscribe for more content.
Tell us what to do for our next video. We need some...
Yeah, we could do like more videos like this, or we could do some like dumb crap, like we could drink milk until we throw up or something like that.
That sounds like a very easy way to get sick.
Yeah, it does sound yeah. So we could do tell us what you want us to do, and we'll give it a try, or or tell you that that's ridiculous and we won't do it. But signing off, have a good day and peace.